get rid of this narrative that everyone's been talking about Sunday?
Oh, for sure. It's when to go home right now. I want to win regardless. I don't really care about what people got to say. I only been in the playoffs twice. My young career. Other people been in the league forever, haven't been in the playoffs at all. But it is what it is. But definitely trying to erase that narrative right there. That's the number one right now in my mind. Focus on the task at hand. When you get in there, just take your time because things gonna happen. The way it should. Don't try to make things happen. Right away. Just take your time, and I feel like that's what I did a little bit. Sometimes throughout the game, just trying to do too much.
So with the Tennessee Titans hosting the Baltimore Ravens in a wildcard matchup, all eyes will be on Ravens quarterback Lamar Jackson as he looks to shake off the playoff bug that's largely followed him after 2 dismal playoff appearances. While Lamar has faced off against the Titans twice in his short career, there was a lot to dissect in those 2 games, and Baltimore simply got outmatched in those 2 meetings. Coming into this game, the Ravens are one of the hottest teams in the league after 5 consecutive wins that was preceded by a 24-30 loss to the Titans in Week 11. Lamar Jackson during that 5-game stretch played much better than he showed in the first half of the 2020 season, showing glimpses of last season's MVP campaign. With that being said, after 2 straight losses to the Titans, the Ravens will have a tall task in hand if they want to get to the divisional round of the playoffs. Offensively, the Ravens boast the best rushing attack, averaging 5.5 yards per carry, along with the highest rushing yards per game. This rush attack is led by the 3-headed monster of J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, and Lamar Jackson, and all 3 have rushed for over 5 yards per carry and have combined for a total of 22 rushing touchdowns. The identity of this offense starts with the run game, and if the Ravens have any hope of beating the Titans, it starts and ends with the run game. Tennessee, on the other hand, ranked 19th in their run defense, allowing over 120 rush yards per game. This is a key matchup where the Ravens can take advantage of the Titans in order to keep up with their offense. Third downs will also be very crucial in this game, as the Ravens are an efficient unit on third down, ranking 4th in the league, while the Titans have struggled all season in this category and have the league's worst third down defense. The Ravens clearly have to do much better than what they displayed in last season's playoff game when the Titans made key stops on third down, including even a couple huge 4th down stops. On top of that, the Ravens need to get a stranglehold of this game early on. This offense isn't really built to come from behind, and as a result, Jackson will have to calm his nerves and has to be able to produce some points in the first couple drives. Tennessee has an explosive offense that can score at will, and falling behind early would be absolutely disastrous. In the last playoff game between these 2 teams, this was one of the main reasons Baltimore lost. They fell behind early to a sizable lead, and this ultimately impacted their offense as a whole, including their run game, which mainly got the most of their yards on a couple big carries. Passing wise, the main aerial threat in this offense is in both receiver Marquise Brown and tight end Mark Andrews. The passing game will come and go with the production of these 2. While the Ravens have the league's worst passing game, Jackson should have plenty of time to find his 2 trusted receivers, as the Titans have one of the league's worst pass defenses coupled with the worst pass rush in the league. This is good news for Marquise Brown, as he'd be able to stretch the field easily, and with no real Titans cornerback aside for maybe a Derrick Jackson able to keep up with the speedster, the receiver could find himself involved in some huge plays down the field. But going back to the Titans pass rush, they pretty much have 0 pass rush, with the Jadeveon Clowney signing backfiring, coupled with his knee injury, and the rest of the defensive line has been non-existent this season. And this is kind of surprising coming from a Mike Vrabel's-led team, but not only do they have the worst pass rush, they also rank 29th in quarterback hits. So yeah, this could be a game where Lamar might have a lot of time in the pocket. While in the Week 11 game, Lamar didn't necessarily take advantage of the situation as he was only able to muster a total of 186 passing yards. Look for the Ravens to make some adjustments. That being said, the Titans' abysmal pass rush this season has led their secondary to be exposed from time to time, and this was clearly evident last week when the Titans faced the Texans and they allowed over 450 yards of offense. Typically when teams give up that amount of yards, they're not going very far in the playoffs. Tennessee had a huge lead and almost gave that all up to the Texans. If you look at all their games this season, Tennessee has allowed opposing teams to score an average of over 30 points a game. This is a stat that doesn't translate well into the playoffs, and Baltimore simply has to capitalize on their opportunities. Additionally, Lamar has to make sure he protects the ball and not put it in harm's way like he did in the first half of the season. Otherwise, you have guys like Malcolm Butler or Kevin Byard all waiting to take that ball away. Defensively, the Ravens are going to have a tough time stopping Derrick Henry. They've struggled against the running back in the last 2 games as he went off for 328 yards off of 58 carries and 1 touchdown. While the Ravens defense has let up an average of 4.6 yards per carry for 26th in the league, they actually have the 8th best rush defense in terms of yards. The defense will have to rely heavily on guys like Patrick Queen, Matthew Judon, and others to try and limit Henry in the run game. This is where the Ravens offense will be very important. If they're able to take a decent lead into the half, they may be able to limit Henry's touches in the game, and this might be the only way to stop someone like Henry. In the second half of the season, Henry averaged an incredible 148 yards per game along with 9 touchdowns. And we all know that limiting the running back in the game is so important because Henry, unlike other backs, just seems to get better as the game progresses. Guys are simply tired and coverages are sometimes blown in the second half, so this is where Henry thrives. Moreover, the Titans' offense in the red zone is next to near perfect, ranking second in the league, and that's largely attributed to Derrick Henry. I don't know how many times I've seen Henry just waltz right in on first or second and goal. The Ravens are going to have to find a way to stop the run in the red zone and force the Titans to take 3 points at times. While Tannehill has been outstanding this season, the Titans' offense runs through Derrick Henry, so stopping or limiting his touches are crucial if the Ravens have any chance in this game. This would also immensely help the defense, as the Titans boast the 4th highest play action offense in the league. And in reality, this is Ryan Tannehill's bread and butter. He can slice and dice the defense through play action, and with the trio of pass catchers he has in the backfield in A.J. Brown, Corey Davis, and Jonnu Smith, could spell trouble for the Ravens defense. Tannehill doesn't attempt many passes, but when he does, he is so efficient, and that's largely attributed to Derrick Henry and his receiving core. On top of that, the Titans QB isn't afraid to sling it down the field. We all saw what he did at the end of the Texans game when he connected with Brown down the field on a beautiful deep pass. Throughout the 2020 season, Ryan ranked 3rd with passes of 40+ yards, only behind to Aaron Rodgers and Kyler Murray. And if the Ravens backline had any thoughts of trying to get to the QB, that might be difficult as the Titans QB just doesn't seem to get sacked much, as he was sacked a mere 24 times last season. Baltimore's got a top 10 front 7 and were able to sack the QB 3 times during their last 2 meetings. So this is something the defense should address because giving someone like Tannehill a clean pocket could come back and haunt them. With that being said, A.J. Brown is another piece on the offense that the Ravens have to contain, especially limiting his yards after the catch. Brown is arguably one of the most dynamic receivers in the game and picks up a lot of yards after contact. The receiver had an outstanding sophomore season in the NFL, racking up 70 receptions for 1,075 receiving yards and 11 touchdowns. He's very tough in coverage, and he's also a very physical receiver who could beat you in the slot or out wide and can run a lot of in-breaking and comeback routes. He's clearly the biggest threat in the passing game for the Ravens. Meanwhile, the defense will also have Corey Davis and tight end Jonnu Smith to count for. But truth be told, I really like the Ravens secondary, led by Marlon Humphrey and Marcus Peters, so it'll be a very interesting matchup to see if this secondary can contain these 3 receivers. All in all, this is by far the most important game in Lamar's short career. He simply needs to remove the choking tag on his playoff performances. Many were expecting a lot last season from the Ravens when they simply bulldozed through the league. Lamar just needs to calm down and let the game come to him, not be rash, and like he said in a recent interview, not to force the play and do too much. But taking the lead, or at least keeping the game close in the first half, is going to be important if the Ravens want to get through to the divisional round.